Hey, everybody, it's your hospitality friend, Glenn. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of No Vacancy Live. I really appreciate that you're taking time out of your day to come and learn along with us. I'm excited to be here. Today, we've got a great show for you. But first, I want to say, hey, Anthony's stuck in traffic, so hopefully he will be here soon. BQE will get you every single time. You guys in New York area know exactly what I'm talking about. Today, like I said, we got a great guest. He's been on the show before. He's written this great book, The Confetti Culture Playbook. Of course, I'm talking about James Ferguson, man. It is so great to see you, buddy. How are you?
What's up, Glenn? Thanks so much for having me on. Excited to be back.
It's great to have you back. A lot has gone on since we last had you on. You're a director of culture now with the company Wurzak Hotel Group, of where you got a Moxie over here. I wish I was at, because we're both in the cold, and that's down in Florida. But before I go anywhere, I got to ask you this. How'd you get that sport coat? And for those on the audio feed, he's got a confetti sport coat on, because it reminds me of, I want to know if you got it from the same store Matthew Lesko back in the 70s got his big question mark suit from, you know?
Yeah, so I got it as a gift, and it's
Cool.
from Oppo Suits. So they do like suits for everything from like NFL teams to just fun patterns. And
Yeah.
I felt like I had to elevate my suit game and really pop on stage and everywhere else. So I started to wear it. Yeah, it's awesome. I like it a lot.
You know, the reason why I bring that up for real is we talk a lot about personal branding on this show, and it's great to have a certain job, but you have to have a distinct personality. You have to have a specific kind of image that you're projecting to the world to get everyone behind you, whether or not you're director of culture or you're trying to get up on stage and rally people's attention. So I'm finding, man, right now it's January. I've got a bad attitude this year. I really, every day I'm waking up, I got a bad attitude. I know it doesn't look like it right now, but you could feel the crabbiness before we went live, right? So, what are you doing with your team now? Because we're in those dark days of winter. We're freezing. The days are short. Everything feels tough. How do you get people that you're working with in your hotel group motivated every single day to try to get past what I know other people are feeling? Because literally, James, every person I've confessed this to has been like, "Oh, me too, man. I just can't get it going,"
Yeah, I mean, dark days of winter are true, right? And we were just chatting about how it's like 8 degrees here in Philadelphia and in the Northeast. But yeah, I think that the key with anything with culture is all about like consistency. So like it doesn't matter what time of year, what the temperature is outside, like you want to show up, like Anthony's book, every day with consistency. And one of my jobs, or one of my roles within the director of culture role is to really create that consistency in everything that we do and make sure that it connects directly to our mission and our values, so that everything that we do, believe in, and value is actionable. And that has been a very rewarding process to go from not really having that in place to really seeing it in action and finding success through it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely perfect. So yeah, you're helping us find the love. I'm pointing to the little graphic behind me over there. Yeah, it's so important to have that. But how do you, like, when you come in and start from level one? How do you go and get people's attentions? How do you figure that out? And the reason why I'm thinking about that is because I've got a friend who you probably know that started recently as a GM of a new, not a new hotel, but an existing hotel. And he inherited a lot of things. And, people have this situation all the time. How do you come in and change things to move it in a way that is more representative of you and your company, as opposed to how things were being done, which is probably why you were brought in the first place?
Yeah, I think, putting the GM hat back on, one of the things that's most important, I think, especially for someone that's starting in a new role or a new hotel, is coming and building relationships. You're not going to get buy-in with anybody until you do that. And one of the things that I strategically do is always have one-on-ones within the first week that I come in. And that allows me to build that relationship. Now, not only to understand where to put my energy over the next 90 days, but also just to create that relevant and relatable experience with that individual, so that they know I'm here to serve them. I can't tell you how many times I would do those one-on-ones with a night auditor, with the housekeeping person, and have them be like, nobody's ever done this before.
Wow.
And to provide that platform to directly connect with those individuals, hear what their pain points are, and then work with them to resolve. That's going to build the trust and the relationships that ultimately help you get buy-in down the road when you start to implement things that are to improve the operation and the experience.
Yeah. So what we're really talking about, I think, is actively listening and making connections with people that have like kind of felt on the side. And we all know that if you don't feel connected to the larger story, then there's a higher chance of you isolating yourself and not really buying into things and not living up to your, not having that person live up to their potential, or even worse, having them depart. Right.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, Geo Fountain is saying, hey, listen to the employees review customer comments online. It's probably a good piece of advice going in to give you one side of the story, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right. There's always 2 or 3 sides of every story. But yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, Glenn. It's
Yeah.
it's it's all about actively listening and then taking immediate action. And if you're doing that both, to his comment, like doing that with your employees and your guests, you're gonna start to see a profound impact from that effort for sure.
That's pretty cool. So, James here has been he joined the Wurzak Hotel Group as a GM back in 2022, and in 23 he became director of culture, which I
Mhm.
freaking love. And you've really been pushing up that Glassdoor score since you
Mhm.
took that role. My hunch is that that's really closely tethered to the culture of the company, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think the role itself, just to give you some backstory there,
Yeah.
was a GM, have been a GM and operator my whole career, but always had a passion for people, wrote my book, and
Mhm.
was able to apply that and get, success with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from that, I basically shot my shot. So for anybody that's listening that wants to make a pivot in their career, no one's going to advocate for you more than you. And so it's so important to ask, or share your interests and hopes for the
Mhm.
future. And so I did that here at this company, and I said, look, here's things that I'm doing with my book, with speaking, that I could do here at this company and
Right.
make a profound impact. And I would love to do that. Is that something you'd be would be consider? And so they did.
It's
And
amazing.
get put into the role,
That's a
and
pretty significant investment for the company to do something like that. Number
yeah.
one, have the opportunity to do that. Number two, recognize that by spending this money, they could probably save money and create a better culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, engagement is such a major factor in driving performance, and so that's been a really big focus for me. But yeah, we started at like 2-2 on Glassdoor. Like we went
Mhm.
from worst to first, truly, and now we're at our highest score that we've been, which is overall 4.3. We have hotels in Virginia, PA, and in Florida. And in the Philly market, where I'm most focused and work out of, we're at a 4.8 or 4.9, even maybe
Wow.
out of 5. So now to say that that was perfect and stayed at a steady, it would not be true. And I think that's the beauty of the progress, right? Like we're not here to be perfect. We're here to make progress. And there's
Mhm.
been ebbs and flows in it. But to still see those ebbs and flows, and at this point, 2 years later of joining in this role, to be at our highest point, I think just says a lot about the consistency that we're creating as a company.
I find one of the things that's tough in life, and I think it must be tiring, difficult with this, is keeping that consistency going day after day, month after month, year after year. Crazy thing about life is a lot of times there's no real definitive finish line. So you have to kind of dig deep to keep running that marathon because you're not going to be done in a 100-meter race, right?
Yeah, I love that you said that. That's the thing with culture is there really is no finish line. And being from Philly, Kobe used to say, "Job's not finished," and
Yeah.
that's the way I approach things. Like, it's not for me. There's no like, "Oh, we got here, now we're done." Like, we've been able to find success and have these accolades start to come in multiple facets of the business, but that doesn't mean that we just stop and we hang our hat on that. Like, it's a continued process, and so it's really with culture. It's all about falling in love with the process
Mhm.
and enjoying the milestones as you go. Obviously, my trademark here is all about celebrating, and
Yeah.
that's the key: is to seek the good and celebrate it along the way, so that you're finding that rewarding aspect to it as you continue on.
GeoFound also says, "Hey, reliability is never sleeping on progress." I like that.
Absolutely, yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's so true.
All right, so you convince them to go ahead and allow you to be this director of culture. So What was that experience like transitioning from a GM to being able to focus on this passion those first couple of months?
So I would say it was absolutely epic, and I feel
That's awesome.
absolutely all gratitude for it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I'd never done this, right? So
Right.
as a GM, I could control the narrative, to control my outcome, communicate, collaborate with my team on a
Mhm.
daily basis, and get the outcomes I wanted. When you're trying to scale it across the company and you're not the one facilitating, it becomes a completely different monster. And so there was a big learning curve there. I
Right.
spent a lot of time, reading books that help support understanding employer branding and employee engagement and all these different aspects at a larger scale. But kind of the three focuses that we had as I came into the role was, first defining our values or pillars, as we call them, and then making sure that we create awareness. So there was kind of three steps: awareness, education, and then activation.
Mm.
Education and sharing how they're defined and how they pertain to the day to day. We created posters that we put in our back of house. We created wristbands that had them on it. We wound up putting things in our orientation so that it was mentioned from the first day forward. They in our orientation they actually select the pillar that relates most to them, that they feel like they can live out every single day, and that goes in their profile, and we kind of use it as a touch point throughout their tenure. From there, we wanted to get our leaders activated, right? So we
Right.
wanted to make sure they were educated on how do we drive this forward and pertain it to our day to day. So we created this thing called Pillars with Purpose Plan, and it was basically like a 10-minute huddle exercise that took a scenario, a pain point that we face every day in hotels, and then connected to a pillar and how we can execute and
Huh.
improve from it.
All right. So what are the
Um,
pillars?
so the pillars are: we have fun, we
Mhm.
solve problems, we bring the building to life, we make the ordinary extraordinary, we embrace style and individuality, we make great things happen, we are trailblazers, and we find opportunities. So there's 8 of them in total. We had these huddle exercises we would do, one per week. So it was an 8-week huddle exercise, and that really set the foundation for understanding, like, how do we live this out, right? We don't want them to be just a poster on the wall. That's pretty and cute, but that's not going to activate us into
That would be one of my
improved
follow-up
performance.
questions is,
Yeah.
because a lot of people do the perfunctory stuff. They put up the
Mhm.
posters, they give them some pizzas, and they feel like that's enough. They've done their job for the year, right? So,
Yeah.
but what was it like actually doing that activating part of it?
Yeah, so that was, I think, is the most fun, right? Because we wound up taking a concept and a level of education and making it actionable. And I think we all strive to do that. And I think, as we just said a moment ago, that's not like we did this and we're done.
Yeah.
But the way that we did it was we took a concept that we um, heard from in Culture Committee. That's a
Mm.
monthly initiative that we have
That's
where
cool.
we take like-minded individuals, listen to their suggestions, and then take action because of it. Through that, we heard of this idea to create an on-the-spot recognition program.
Yeah.
So in this process of building momentum through awareness and education, we then built out a program that we then scaled across the company. So an idea that was one hotels became one that impacted everyone, and that was the Wurzak Wow program.
Mhm.
So it's basically saying, you know, acknowledging in the moment someone living out one of our pillars, circling that pillar, sharing what caught your eye and why, and then celebrating them for it. They then drop the bucks in the box, and every Friday, or Friday as I call it, we celebrate an individual at each hotel. And what this did was two things. Not only did it help the employees be encouraged and nurtured to continue the behaviors we wanted to continue to see, but it also activated our leaders to get out of their office, to celebrate team members actively throughout the day, not just in their department, but
Right.
across the hotel. And that is really where we started to gain momentum and saying, okay, this is a great concept, but now we're doing something about it. And that's when we really started to see the performance in other aspects of the business.
That's interesting. So how do you actually go about building that trust that you need to get everybody on board?
Well, I think as I just shared, because
Yeah.
this came from an employee's voice and we took action because that voice was heard, it set
Yeah.
the tone
Totally.
for the entire program and
Yeah.
process. So, at the end of the day, employees want to be seen, heard, and supported, and this
Right.
set that tone right out the gate. And then the program had a lot of stakeholders involved in it, so we made sure that there was a lot of involvement and support through it. And then, again, like anything, you have to train and teach the
Totally.
best practices and provide resources and like toolkits and all that. And through that process, we were able to really equip our team to go take action to gain traction.
Yeah. And again, that's when
Um,
it soars at that point. Because my
right.
guess it's kind of like a tipping point kind of a thing. Like you're in the weeds for a long time. You're not seeing the results. And then you get a big pop at some point when everything kind of comes together. Right.
Yeah, and everybody sees that, but they don't know all the work behind the thing. Like, obviously, this is a month's
Right.
work that got put in, and then all of a sudden we started to see the results. So, and that's why you can't fall in love with accolades or anything else, because that's few and far between. You have to fall in love with the process that got you there, because that's where the rewarding side of it is.
Right.
And again, being part of that defining of the pillars, being part of that pillar with purpose plan, being part of designing and implementing that program, that was the best part. The results were just an immediate impact from it, but it was
Yeah.
that process that really was, the best part of it.
Yeah. So, you got this cool book, but you also have a action plan workbook that you've been updating as well. So tell us a little bit for those who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know about the Confetti Playbook. Check it out at the confetticultureplaybook.com. But it's been out for a good couple of years. And by the way, still cleaning out the confetti from around the house in 2021 when this came out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of confetti. It sticks around and reminds you to keep on celebrating.
Yeah.
So the workbook, I recently updated that. So to give you an idea for those that are listening, my book, The Confetti Culture Playbook, is all about inspiration, giving you kind of the playbook on how I won top workplaces. But then the workbook is the implementation guide. So it's taking inspiration to implementation. And so you may be a leader and not a reader. Maybe you don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go take action to gain traction right now, the workbook allows you to do that. It gives you context and fill in the blank templates to go do exactly what I did that found success. And again, make it your own. But that resource is a great deal. It's the same kind of price point as the book, so it really depends on who needs it and the best approach for you. But it's really a great resource to help build those relationships, create consistency in how you show up at huddle, how you host meetings, what questions to ask at one-on-ones, how to proactively support your team. Just a lot of great resources in there for sure.
Yeah, our Gio is very chatty today. Don't sit on your laurels. Yeah, I mean, that's tough because you got to keep digging deeper in order to keep moving forward in your career. And sometimes you got that salmon swimming upstream thing and it just wants to kill you at the end of that journey. But you got to figure out how to get that positive energy going again in order to push forward. And I guess that brings me back to my crabby ass crab move that I've been in 2025 so far. But how do you think about starting new challenges and stuff like that? Because when you're at the beginning of that journey, it seems insurmountable. Right. And for me, I try to break it down into little bite-sized pieces so I could keep, going and feeling accomplishment throughout. But how do you motivate to get moving and take on something that just seems it's going to be an impossible journey?
I think, for me, the last time we met, that was right when I found out that I had beaten cancer. Mm-hmm. And so my experience through that process and having confetti shift from a symbol of recognition or reward to a symbol of hope through that journey, that kind of resilient mindset that I built through that has really helped support me in making sure I maintain that momentum. And, my mantra this year, and I just posted on LinkedIn today, is keep showing up. And it, pertains right to Anthony's book. It's like, if you're not getting the eyes you want, the sales you want, the motivation you want, whatever, just keep showing up. And even if you have everything you want and more, keep showing up. Because at the end of the day, that consistency, that compound effect will absolutely lead to the result you want. It's just, it's always easier to take the break, to be tired, to not be motivated. But most people fall into those traps. If you're just consistent and take little steps, little bites each day, you're going to finally get there, and it's going to be a super rewarding process.
James, that really folds in nicely to some of the things that I talk about when I do speaking engagements. And it's my philosophy of you just have to do one more thing. When you're done for the day and you can't do any more, just do one little thing. Even if it's as little just as an email or a recognition for somebody or just something, because that gets you in the right framework of mind to keep pushing forward, in my opinion. I've said it a lot on the show, but over time, one thing a day really starts to add up. And over the years, it creates that giant separation from others that choose that route of, I'm just going to go home at the end of the day before you,
Yeah, it's like, one of our pillars is we make the ordinary extraordinary. And the only difference between people that are extraordinary and ordinary is that little bit of extra.
Yeah.
right? And so, that over time is what, to your point, separates the good from the great. And we're just constantly trying to find ways to improve and bring our team along with us and have them be part of that success. So, yeah, it's a great lesson for hotels and business and personally in pursuing your dreams.
Yeah, Gio's all about prioritize, take care of yourself too. That's really hard. Since you've been, through the journey of beating cancer and stuff like that, you probably look at self-care a whole lot differently as well, right? My guess is for you to have achieved what you have, a lot of it was go full bore year after year after year. So how did that reframe how you wanted to interact with this universe of ours?
It's a great question, man. We're getting into some good stuff today.
Hey, and just let everybody know we have no idea what we're talking about. We just
No, we're just flowing. This is great. So I'm going to share something that nobody else knows.
Yeah.
So every day, we all have a mirror in our bathroom. Every day with an expo marker, I write on my mirror, I will impact millions with my message. And my message is to seek the good and celebrate it. So every day, I try and focus on taking one step forward in that goal. And by doing that, I will ultimately accomplish that goal. And so it's not about one thing. It just is, I will impact millions with my message, and finding ways to do that in different ways, through speaking, through the book, through my role at Wurzak. There's just a multitude of ways. And that's really been my North Star. I feel like the reason I was able to get through that experience and beat cancer was to share that story. Again, that my book was all about recognition and reward, but
Yeah.
confetti became a symbol of hope for me. And that message is something that can help a lot of people, through that resilient mindset, growth mindset. And I think that, and including the recognition and reward side of culture, just makes the message much more impactful, and something that really drives me now, for sure.
And one of the things that I'm becoming more reflective of as I've been older, some of the hardest challenges that we have in life turn out to be blessings. And it's the
Absolutely.
weirdest thing, right? I mean, for me, losing everything during COVID, and I know a lot of people did too, so it's nothing special here, but that for me really put things into perspective and stuff. And it turned out to be a blessing for me. I never would have thought it in that moment. What was that journey like for you, turning this from, oh my God, to I can't believe I went through it, to wow, I'm a better person coming out of the other end of it?
Yeah, before that experience, I felt like I was constantly preaching positive leadership
Yeah.
and just being a positive individual, and that was a very trying time, right? It's saying, all right, you're talking a big game here.
Yeah, man, right.
This is your time. And I heard something the other day that I thought was pretty profound. It was like, and not to get religious or anything, but just like, if you ask God for courage, you think He's just going to give you courage, or is He going to give you a situation where you have to be courageous? And so, I think about that, and it's like, well, this is my testing moment. Am I really this guy, or is it all talk? And so I really had to show up as the same guy consistently, and really focus on seeking the good, because a lot of things were going wrong in that experience. Like, I had to separate from my job. I had to move and didn't have any income. I had cancer, and now had to navigate all of that. And there was just a lot of aspects to it. And it's easy to say, look at all the things that are going wrong. But through that journey, I identified a lot of things that were going well. And that was really my North Star, to focus on it. And then, throwing confetti at the end of treatment cycle was really my focus. And that's where the symbol of hope comes in. And so, really tried to keep that same mindset, and now teach it to others now that I've overcome it.
What's it feel like when you've been working on changing the culture and you know that they get it, and they're not just doing it, they're living it?
I think that's a continued process, right? So in the same token that we did these 3 levels of focus, we're still doing it. But I think what's fun, as an example, at our culture champion luncheons, we I kind of did this test of like, let's see how good what we're doing, like, is it working?
Right.
So I would ask in our luncheon, like, name me the 8 pillars, kind of like you did a moment ago. And this is going to be like, okay, do we know what it is? How do we actionalize it? All that. And a lot of our hotels over time began to be able to tell me all 8. And I think in that moment, I was like, wow, this is actually working. People understand it. They want to be part of it. And that was a big piece. And speaking of being a part of it, I don't know if you've been seeing these on the internet at all, but that's another message, a mantra, we are Wurzak, that we really wanted to make sure our team members felt part of. And, the concept is we all have a hand in our success. Just in the way that we throw up the W, it's the same thing every day. We all have a hand in our success, and we can't do it alone. So it's not me, the director of culture, that changed everything. It's every single one of us that supported the efforts to get there. And again, to see that process build and people buy in and be part of that growth has been awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Hold on. I brought up the wrong picture. I am so lame. This is what I want to show. Bam, right there.
There we go. Yeah. So that's at our Sheridan and Valley Forge. Yeah. And just helping people understand, like, they do make a difference. They do matter. What they do every day has an amazing impact, and it's important to acknowledge that, celebrate that, and support that every single day. And so that's what we're really doing in my role, and as we build this culture together.
Awesome. Well, thanks for getting me a little bit more enthusiastic about 2025. I got to go to the Alice conference next week and be motivated and have some positivity going on. One more time, how can we learn about you? How can we get this awesome book and the workbook that goes with it?
So if you're interested in following more of our culture journey, definitely go to Wurzak Hotel Group on LinkedIn. If you want to learn more about me, go to my LinkedIn, James Ferguson, with the little confetti emoji. And then if you want my book, workbook, or interested in me speaking, go to the Confetti Culture Playbook.com.
That's awesome. Hey, both of us, have him do a keynote. I'll moderate some stuff. I could do a sloppy.
Yeah. Honestly, we should make that happen this year. I think that should be a priority for us.
Right? That would be a whole lot of,
the energy would be unmatched if we were both on stage. I think that would be epic.
I know. That'd be awesome. James, thanks, man. Awesome. I really appreciate you. Just do me a favor. Hang tight for one second. Listen, it's just, for me, I started off today sluggish, but I got James' energy, and that gives me more energy. And that's what I think is really great when you're out in the workplace. People feeding on people in the workplace is just really what helps to motivate it. When you have that positive culture that's underlying everything there, just makes life so much more fun, and you get delight in making others happy. All right, re-listen to this one because there's a lot of heavy shit in it. So make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, you could rewatch this one over and over again. I would watch it just for the sport coat, right? Me, I'm dressed more casually. James is a lot more fancy than I am. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on. And no live shows next week, but a lot of coverage from Alice. See you later. Bye. Oh, yeah.